Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grow With Us. My name is Evan Barton, and I'm your host who helps create conversations with the innovators and leaders of a growing tech center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Grow With Us podcast highlights the work of community leaders, tech entrepreneurs, nonprofit professionals, and talent development advocates in Tulsa. Grow With Us is a podcast of In Tulsa. In Tulsa's mission is to connect talented individuals and companies to stimulate economic growth in Tulsa and to create more prosperous communities across the region. Each episode, Grow With Us discusses the growth of opportunities, the growth of communities striving for change, or the tech and innovation that is changing the landscape of Tulsa. On this episode of Grow With Us, I'm speaking with Jamar Rogers, content creator and Tulsa Bound Cohort 1 participant. We discuss Jamar's experience returning to his hometown of Tulsa, his connection to the arts and music, and the Tulsa Bound program that helped him experience Tulsa in a new way. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grow With Us. I am so excited to welcome the lovely, the beautiful, the talented Jamar Rogers. Jamar, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my God, you're so nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. I was able to get connected to you through a close colleague of mine, Mackenzie. She had worked with you on the Tulsa Bound program. And I'm really excited that we're going to get to talk about that and also some of the amazing things that you've been doing in Tulsa. And I'm really excited to have got to meet you. We had a little Zoom call and I think realized a lot of overlapping circles in our lives and everything. So I was really happy that you were excited to join me on Grow With Us today.
Oh yeah, I feel the same way for sure.
Well, let's go ahead and just jump right in. I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience and share, your story in whatever way you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm Jamar Rogers. I was born in New Orleans, but I grew up in Tulsa. I graduated from Booker T. Washington. Go Hornets. 25 years ago in 2000, which is crazy to say. I was raised in the church, super religious. I grew up singing in church. So music has been like the first language I identified with. And when I left Tulsa, I kind of bounced around for a little bit. My friends were off going to college, like really prestigious colleges, and I was off experiencing the world.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Kansas City for a while, Dallas, Atlanta, settled in New York for almost a decade, and then was in the West Coast for the rest of that time. I just got back here 7 months ago, and I am loving Tulsa. And I'm saying that with like a little bit of shock and awe.
Yeah.
Because when I left, I absolutely hated this place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that brings us to today. I don't want to overstep any of your other questions, but I can go in like 100 different directions.
I know. I'm like, and we will get there. I love that, though. I want to touch on one thing, talking about language is kind of like your first language in some ways. I think about that a lot. And I'm a language learner. I've been studying French and Spanish, for the past decade.
Wow.
And I also have kind of like dipped into my love of music through language, if that makes any sense. So I've been like, I'm a big K-pop fan and I listen to lots of international artists. So like the music that I consume is not always in English. And I think that's exactly kind of what you're saying. Like there is something about music that doesn't need comprehension of the language to feel the feeling.
Absolutely. It's the vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get all woo-woo, but it's definitely it affects your heart, the right kind of vibes definitely do. Yeah.
Sometimes I want to dance.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you want to cry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's so many like Korean ballads that I've heard that I'm like, I don't know what they're saying, but like she is giving the emotion.
Oh, that's how I feel about Spanish music. It
Yes.
they're so dramatic in some of the ballads. I love it.
Yes, and then I think when you add on the comprehension after the fact, the song hits different. You get to experience it twice, which I think is really, really cool. And I don't know, in English that happens as well. I don't know. I try and think about like my pop songs. I was like, "Good Luck, Babe" came on yesterday,
Such a good song.
and I love that song. It's a great song. I think it took a little bit for me to realize that it was like a queer anthem in a lot of ways. I was like, why did I not get this?
Oh, let me tell you, that song resonates with me so deeply because I've been the babe she was saying good luck to.
Yes.
And so when I first heard it, I cried. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, I wish I would have heard this, I don't know, a decade ago or so.
Yeah.
But
The power of music, baby.
Yeah.
It'll hit you and put you right back in a time and place, which is really cool. And I think
Absolutely.
we're going to get into that a little bit more
Yeah.
in some of my other questions. But you mentioned that you didn't love Tulsa.
Oh, I
You
didn't.
hated it. We don't love that
did.
word here on this show.
I
No, I'm joking.
know, but keep in mind that Tulsa from 25 years ago
Very
is not the
different.
Tulsa it is today.
Absolutely.
And to be fair, I was raised mostly in Broken Arrow,
Mhm.
which has a different approach to some things.
Yeah.
And when you add the religious component, and I don't have an issue with religion at all. I do have an issue with hypocrisy and
Mhm.
and judgment and shame and shaming folks
Yeah.
for being who they are.
Mhm.
And so, as a very hormonal teenager in the 90s, I never felt like I belonged in Oklahoma. I felt very othered. I didn't belong to the blacks. I didn't belong to the whites.
Yeah.
I just was like floating aimlessly. So I was suicidal.
Yeah.
I had to check into St. Francis at 18 for having some suicide ideation. So yeah, I was a very troubled teenager, and I attributed all my problems to now they call it bullying, but the harassment that I received, which is why I had to transfer to Booker T from Broken Arrow because the harassment was so severe. Booker T saved my life.
Yeah.
The halls were just so opening. I could be myself. I remember that it made the news that there was a gay straight alliance that actually like made the news, and it was
Yeah.
a big
Was
deal.
it called Sofa?
It was.
Okay. I was like, I'm glad that name
It
was
was.
what it was for me too. I like
Yeah.
that. It's important. That name is important to me.
Well, the club was important to me.
Yeah.
It was what I needed to actually feel like I belonged somewhere.
Yeah.
And so some of my best friends to this day are kids I went to Booker T with.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, without getting too into some of the other things you mentioned, I do think that the hypocrisy and the othering are things that we as a society just need to move past. There's no, I want to strive to unity. And
Yes.
are we the only people, like we as queer folks, the only people that want to be a part of something? No, I
No.
don't think that's the case at all. And so instead of, finding our differences and pointing them out and separating ourselves from them, let's learn from from the previous
Absolutely.
mistakes.
And I was telling my friends in California, they're like, how are you adjusting to Oklahoma? I was like, it's easy.
Yeah.
When you look for a bit of the divine in every person that you meet, you're going to find it.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that we're going to agree on every little thing. In fact, we don't even have to. That's what makes us so fascinating.
Yeah.
But I think that we do have a common thread, and that is to want to be seen,
Yeah.
to want to be loved, and to want to be heard. And so I strive my best to give that, and in return, I'm getting it a lot here.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, we talked about this Tulsa experience up to a certain point, and 7 months, that's not that long, but I feel like you've experienced obviously a different Tulsa than
Mm.
you experienced growing up. What has these 7 months been like for
Oh
you
my gosh.
back in Tulsa?
It has been so the highs have come from being the city itself, and the lows have come from I'm one of the reasons I'm back in Tulsa, I'm going through a kidney transplant process. And so everybody at St. John's Ascension has been amazing. They've been so warm and accommodating. The health system here has actually been really, really great to me. And so that's been a high for me.
I love that.
The lows have come from like, oh my gosh, there's this like life altering thing I'm going through. But I feel like Tulsa's been a really safe place to land
Yeah.
while I go through it. The community here is amazing. Whatever it is you're looking for, you will find it. I thought that maybe I'd be bored here, and that is not the case. I'm actually having
Girl, I've
to
seen your
like,
weekends.
yeah,
Packed, booked, and busy.
I'm actually having to like choose between like, do I want to do A or do I want to do B? And the
Yes.
fact that I have options, I didn't have that growing up. We used to go to OKC or Dallas or Kansas City.
Leave town.
Yeah,
that was the option.
and you don't have to do that here. Like I love the fact that there are so many mocktails on menus for people who are sober curious.
Mhm.
I love that there are house parties, but they're imagined in a different way.
Yes.
The art scene here is fantastic. I think that Tulsa deciding to invest in art is one of the best decisions that the city could have made. And you kind of feel that energy as you walk downtown. I love that. I remember downtown, there was nothing here when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. And now you can go on the weekend and have a really, really good time. The food, slept on. The
Yes.
talent, amazing. So I can go on and on about how much Tulsa has blown my mind. But I think the most important thing I've learned is I thought because I was so bullied and harassed that I needed to go to New York and go to LA and make a name just to prove to all my haters I am somebody.
Mhm.
And after I calmed my nervous system and realized that the only somebody I needed to be was one for myself, coming here feels like returning home, and I want to put down roots. Yeah.
I love that. Well, it's one of those things where it's like you want to call a place home, but you want it to call you. You want it to call you like a resident. I don't know. Like I think
You want it to call you home as
oh,
well.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, where was I going with that? But that's exactly what I meant to say. I think about that a lot as in my like indigenous identity. That's like a really important aspect of being native is that like you claim the tribe and the tribe claims you.
Mm.
That is like so important to belonging and so important to just your understanding of your sense of self. And for a long time, I think you didn't want Tulsa to call you home because you didn't feel it. You
No.
didn't feel the love. And now you're getting that like, I don't know, retribution in some ways. And I really love that. And
And validation.
it's also healing you.
Yes. Oh my
I just
God.
like
Yes.
connected that, which is like healing you in the physical and the spiritual. That's really amazing.
Yes, you better preach.
It does run in my family. I'm a preacher's grandson.
Okay. There it is.
There it is. Hallelujah. No.
And when Mackenzie, you mentioned Mackenzie when she reached out to me about coming to Tulsa Bound. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
I figured it was a great opportunity to come heal my relationship with the land. I wanted to go back and make peace with the place that I came from, and I ended up staying. So yeah, here we are.
I love that. Well, let's get into that. And we mentioned Mackenzie and this connection to Tulsa Bound, which is an amazing program that, you know, my folks and my coworkers at Tulsa Remote and Experience Tulsa have really kind of curated this like 1 month experience in Tulsa. And you got to do, I think, the pilot program of it
Yes.
all.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that program, the experience, and how it kind of it brought you back.
Well, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Tulsa Bound.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I've been a professional content creator for the last 2 or 3 years, and so I was invited by Experience Tulsa to come experience Tulsa for a month and basically film my journey. And so I framed it as like, I'm going to make peace with the land, but I'm very dubious.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that Tulsa has changed. People have said it's changed, but we'll see.
Mhm.
And within the first 48 hours, I knew that there was something magical happening here. We came on a First Friday, which was the perfect day to begin
Yes.
Tulsa Bound. If you don't know what First Friday is, it's the day where Tulsa Artist Fellowship, they open their doors, and it's just a big art crawl downtown, and it's just art everywhere. And the way to my heart is through art. So for the next month, Tulsa Bound showed us the most incredible aspects of Tulsa. I learned things about Tulsa I didn't know after growing up here, which was crazy. We did an amazing downtown trolley tour. We had an indigenous lunch that was made just for us, an indigenous fashion show. We had all of these passes to check out every museum. It just made Tulsa feel alive and vibrant in a way to me that I had never experienced. And not only that, I saw the warmth of people after living. I love New York. I love California. I love LA. But there's a warmth here that is unmatched. There's a friendliness. There's people walking by you on the street and greeting you. At first, I was taken aback, and I was like, "Wait a minute, no, this is normal. It's normal to acknowledge other human beings." And so it was an amazing month of just it was me and 11 other cohorts, and half of us decided to move here.
Oh,
So
that's amazing.
obviously Tulsa's doing the damn thing.
The tagline for Tulsa Bound is a pop-up digital nomad community and workcation. Live, work, explore, and belong, which I feel like you just hit on all of those things. I mean, living here, you're here for an entire month, staying in downtown and kind of seeing what, you know, a downtown residential experience might look like. Not that that's your only option when you live in Tulsa. There's many of other places you can live.
Really great places. Yeah.
But working downtown, I mean, if you're a remote worker, you're a content creator in your case, you know, the grind don't stop from what I know, from what I know with the content creation. And then explore. You were invited to be a part of the community. I love that experience you shared about, you know, walking downtown and being greeted by people. I mean, like, it's really silly. We were at Mayfest this past weekend, and like Mayfest is where you will run into every person from every part of your life. I was seeing, you know, my high school swim team co-captains. I was seeing, you know, community members that I've had on the show before, people that I work with in the Human Rights Commission. Like, it's Smallsa.
I love that.
At the end of the day, it's Smallsa. And I think, you know, it really cemented this belonging to Tulsa that I feel like you've now started to feel, and you said you felt it in the first 48 hours, but I feel like that has really cemented over the past 7 months for you, which is amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And I just decided to take that momentum and run with it. And we won't stop now.
Well, and like when else does, and I know I love that you mentioned some of the places that you lived previously, because I think that this is something that a lot of people consider, like I'm going to go make a name for myself. I'm going to go belong in New York. And
good luck, babe.
Good luck, babe. Exactly. It's hard to feel like you belong in a place that everybody belongs to. Is it something, can you forge your own unique identity in New York City or in LA when it's full of, the most unique people in the world? And that's not to say or discourage anybody from doing that. I do think that there is some validation in the fact that you can find it in a place like Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
And like you are unique enough, you are whatever enough, you are enough to be able to, I think, create your own identity wherever you are, wherever you land.
And invest in the land here.
Yeah.
I think that there's so many opportunities that you can forge here. New York, they're already established. LA is already established, but Tulsa is ripe for entrepreneurial vision. And if there's something that you want to start here, you can get the help. I think that sometimes when we begin to despise where we're from, because what do they say, that familiarity breeds contempt. But I think coming back with fresh eyes made me realize that, I never needed to go far to achieve what I wanted to achieve. I could have always done that here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, to be fair, not to play devil's advocate, even for what you just said, Tulsa needed to grow, though. Tulsa needed to evolve.
It did.
Tulsa needed to be ready for 2025 Jamar.
It did.
I think that it had some, we're talking about a city almost like it's one person, and it's really not. Multiple things had to change for you to feel the way you feel, that like you do now. And so I'm glad to, this is essentially a testament that it did, and in multiple different ways. It might not have reconciled or healed every single wound, but it did make some strides.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that you feel welcomed and
safe,
welcomed back here, and safe. Safe is a very, very important one. I love the arts thing too. It's one of those things that I think gets slept on here in some ways, and that investment in the arts is really strong here. We're in a building that is because of an investment in the arts that the city has made, and that's really, really exciting. And how are we going to do something with it? Like the arts got to just keep going. We got to keep evolving. And I was really encouraged by Mayfest last weekend. I have been going to Mayfest since I moved back to Tulsa 4 years ago or so. And I had kind of noticed that I felt like they were bringing a lot of people in for Mayfest, which is great. Get people that aren't from Tulsa to come sell to Tulsans. And that's a great way to create exposure for them. But this weekend, I was walking around the whole booths and seeing everything, and it was full of Tulsa Metro artists, like Oklahoma artists. And like, I think that shows an intentionality, even if that's my experience. I don't know. I'm sure if you looked at the lineup, there might be some sort of discrepancy in what I'm saying, but it felt like I was in community and meeting the artists from my community. And that feels like really special to me. And high art. I mean, we're seeing paintings, we're seeing stained glass, we're seeing like people that
pottery,
pottery and everything. And I think that that's really important. We're seeing indigenous voices. We're seeing Black and brown artists there. Like that's something that's really important.
Tulsa.
Yes. I love it. Well, and Tulsa Bound is an amazing program. They're doing it twice a year now, once in June for the month of June. So we have one coming up. We're about to have a new cohort of Tulsa Bound folks. So I'm sure you'll be tapped on to be involved with them as well. And then I think we are running it again later on in the year, and applications for that are open. So we are accepting applications for that program on a rolling basis. If a 1-month digital nomad workation sounds exciting to you, Jamar is a testament to the impact that
Come
can
check it out, and then stay for Tulsa Remote while you at it.
Exactly. Get plugged in. We have a lot of taglines. Come experience Tulsa. Come to camp. I could go on.
Well, I mean, listen, when I love something, I become an evangelist for it. So Now I've convinced my mom to move back. My friend just got approved through Tulsa Remote. I convinced my partner to move out here.
I love
I
it.
have friends in New York and LA that are thinking about coming, spending like a 3-day weekend here.
Yes.
So come on, Tulsa.
Yeah. They see your weekends are like, dang, I gotta go check it out. I gotta go to that Real Housewives house party experience.
Oh,
Are you going to that?
I am going.
I knew. I am going on an international trip this week.
Oh, I'm
so
glad
I'll
you're
miss it.
doing that, but I wish you
Yes.
were coming to the
Yes.
party.
It'll be fun. Some of my best girlies will be there.
Oh, Evan. Okay. We'll have to connect after you get back.
Yes, I want to hear all about it. Well, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, just kind of in our experience of the arts and everything, but you have a really strong relationship with the arts, both throughout your life and now through your experience in Tulsa. But one of the biggest ways that you've, been a part of the arts is through your voice and through singing. And so I'd love for you to kind of tell us a little bit about that experience and kind of what opportunities your voice has led you to.
Well, I mean, like I said, I mentioned that music was like my first love. And so singing was like my saving grace whenever I would be bullied. The one thing I did have going for me was like, oh, that boy can sing at least, So, I sang in all the choirs, Booker T, jazz choir, the performance choir, whatever it was for my Mr. Hornet speech. I sang, I knew that would give me a leg up. I still only got first runner up, but I
didn't tell you this when we talked about. I was also up for Mr. Hornet and I got 4th out of 4. It was a rough and sad experience. There was not rough and sad. It's one of these like pageant things.
It's a lot of, it's very,
I was like, I knew I'm not going to be a drag queen at the pageant scene if I can't even get like first attendant, second attendant. But like, you really get the shaft if you're not one of the attendants. Like, you get put on the court. You don't it's just not. It's not cute.
I'm not laughing.
No, you could laugh,
but I am. I
was crying, 10 years ago, but I can laugh about it now.
but I mean. Side note, how cool is all the pomp and circumstance? Like, it's so beautiful. I love Booker T for that tradition alone. So yeah, I sang through everything. I was on American Idol the first time, season 3, and got eliminated right after Hollywood Week because I was brutally honest in my psych evaluation and didn't pass the psych evaluation. Hey, we live and we learn.
Also, they were not very nice about psych evals.
Oh no, they were not. And then I went again 5 years later in 2008, made it pretty far, got a lot of TV time. I still only made it to Hollywood, but got a lot of TV time because who my friend was. And because of that TV time, when I auditioned for The Voice in 2012, I went really far. I almost won The Voice. It was the second season. And that's the first time I ever felt claimed by Tulsa, to be quite honest. I was living in New York at the time, and I did some virtual interviews with the NBC affiliate, and they were calling me Tulsa's homegrown hero. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, y'all like me.
Homegrown.
And then at that actually planted the seed, like maybe I should go back to Tulsa, but I don't know. I was like, no, I'm gonna stay in LA for a little while. So I moved to LA, got signed to a record deal, did a whole bunch of traveling, did some stuff with the Clinton Global Initiative, did some stuff in South Africa, Australia. It was a really great experience. It changed my life. I went from just being a bartender to actually having a career in music. I started singing commercial jingles with a commercial company in New York. And so I did some stuff for BMW, McDonald's, stuff that really paid the bills. I was on the Ellen Show, I was on BET. I was named by Root, one of the 100 most influential African Americans. But all of that stuff was really, really cool. But I think the coolest part of it all was that I got to be paid to do what I love.
Yes.
And so the last time I haven't had like a desk job in over 10 years. I've been singing and making a way. And then that led to content creation. And it's really interesting how I've been able to merge the music with the content creation. And so now I'm doing sound healing sessions. I just had my first in-person session here in Tulsa. It was really, really great. I'm doing them virtually. And so I've decided that I don't have to be a pop star or a rock star to use my voice for the greater good.
Yeah.
I can still use it here, horizontally with you.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the vibration of the voice and sound and how powerful that is. So I'm not done yet. We're going to keep going, and I have some exciting plans of what I'd like to implement here. I'd like to maybe start hosting some retreats here in Tulsa. You don't need to go to Bali. Come here and ride some horses and experience the wellness community here, which is thriving,
Yeah,
grounded, and beautiful. So
that's amazing. I love that again, like, some people can get caught up in the pomp and circumstances of reality competition
mm.
television shows. I'm no stranger to being obsessed with reality competition television shows. But I love that you took those and allowed for it to be a platform. It wasn't about the TV time for you. It might have been nice, and it might have gotten your face uh in front of some people that make decisions to be like, oh, we want to hear this voice again. But you also, like, I don't know, you just added it to your tool belt. You just were
Thank you.
like, this is why I have an art form that I'm one love and I'm good at, and it started to pay the bills and all the things. You just kept rolling with it,
Thank you.
and then kept adapting to a new market. At some point, we've been now doing these shows. You were talking about American Idol season 3, American Idol season 8, The Voice season 2. These shows are now on they're like 20th
I know.
season.
Please don't remind me.
I know that was not meant to be shady. It was just
I
to
know.
point out how, in some ways, like, there's even more singing shows out there. In
Mhm.
some ways, like, it became oversaturated, like, in some ways, after you did it. And so how did you continue to forge a path forward, like what you just mentioned? Being involved in wellness is a really cool way to, like you said, activate the voice, utilize the voice, and I think it's continue to inspire with your voice, which is amazing. So I love that. I'm excited to support whatever you do here in the
Oh,
wellness space
Evan,
here.
thank
It's
you.
it's huge.
Thank you.
And hopefully this, I like to think about Grow With Us as a platform. So if this is something for you to reach new people here in Tulsa, if you've been curious about the wellness space in Tulsa, you just found a great person to
Yeah,
to
thank
explore
you.
that through.
Thank you. And don't I am so surprised at how intentional the wellness space is here. I'm not crapping on California, but they tend to be a little flighty and woo-woo. There's
It's a little
something
bit about smoothies and,
Yeah, and there's so much
thinking
more
right.
to yeah, there's so much more to that. Like, I find that in Tulsa, there's just such a grounded approach. I
Yeah.
went to more sound baths in 1 week here than I did on either coast, and I was like, "Who knew Tulsa?" Right?
Mhm.
There's an amazing Free Spirit Chiropractic. They have an amazing ice plunge and sauna, and yeah,
That's awesome.
there's people here doing things. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really cool. I guess I didn't even comprehend how robust the wellness space can
Oh,
be.
they're
It
here.
it is the mind and body
Mm.
and the spirit. Jamar, I have one more question for you that I would love to kind of hear. Maybe your future forward thinking thoughts about, you are in a really interesting period of life. We've talked about some healing, we've talked about some growth, and we've talked about some challenges. What are you the most excited about in this period of your life? If you were to look forward, and even just in consideration of what you're going through right now.
It's gonna sound so simple, but it's really profound to me, and that is, spending time with friends. I think that for so long I underestimated the beauty of leaning on your community, asking for help, giving help. And since I've been back in Tulsa, it doesn't feel like there's this dog eat dog. There's it's not a rat race out here. People show up for you, they support you, they share your stuff on social media. Um, and I look forward to seeing my friends out here. I know that
Oh,
sounds just so simple, but after everything I've been through in life, it's the simple things that I look forward to the most.
yeah, I think community is never going to be something that is understated or underappreciated, because when you have it, you know the impact that it has on you.
And it feels like a warm hug.
Hmm.
Yeah, so thank you, Tulsa.
Oh, I love that. I think that's really sweet, and I hope that I hope you feel them hugging you back.
I do. I
We're
do.
gonna keep the good vibes going this whole time. I love it. Well, that's amazing. Jamar, I really appreciate your time today and sharing your story, sharing what you're bringing to Tulsa. I think is really, really important and amazing. Your story about not loving it and not having a great experience, but coming back and being able to have a new experience is something that you're not alone in. I think it's really important to highlight that, you know, Black queer folks have this experience, and there is some reconciliation there. It's also not a linear journey. Not everyone's going to have the same experience as you. Not everyone's going to start getting hugs and feeling hugs, and it might be harder coming back. But, I think some of the things that you've shared in your attempt and in your successful attempt at coming back here have been a mindset shift that has helped you. Understanding who you are before you came back has been helpful in being able to navigate this space differently. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me, Evan. You're great.
Thank you so much. And well, if there's anything else you would like to plug, anything, a content creator, I know you've got some things to plug, but feel free to use this opportunity to connect with our audience.
Well, you can find me on Instagram at the Jamar Rogers, and I'm on TikTok as just Jamar Rogers. And if you keep up with me there, then you'll know what I'm doing in Tulsa.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jamar, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Grow With Us. Thank you for listening to this episode of Grow With Us. Grow With Us is supported by In Tulsa Initiatives. If you are interested in learning more about In Tulsa services for job placement and workforce development, please visit intulsa.com. From there, you can join our talent network where you will get access to a newsletter, and our talent team will make sure we put the right opportunities on your radar. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be notified when more episodes of Grow With Us are released. Let us know what you think about how we're doing by rating and reviewing. It really helps. Grow With Us is edited and engineered by Pod for Good Media and Jesse Ulrich, and it is hosted by me, Evan Barton. This has been Grow With Us.